Hello and welcome to Blog Tornado. How are you? And today we're going to go through Bob Lazar's story again. And as you know, that's what I like to do on this channel. Try to decode some of these interesting stories that have been with us for so many years, but some of us are still, after some of these interesting events that happened a long time ago. So today particularly we're going to go through some of the things that he said on Joe Rogan show or whatnot. He's been repeating them many years, but again, he said few things that when they go through my channel, they pose a question if it's a thin line, and I will demonstrate again to you today what I mean. Okay, so please stay with me throughout this video to understand what the heck is going on in this situation that I can wrap my mind around, and should be interesting for you as well. So please stay with me, and we're starting right now. So you've probably seen a Joe Rogan interview with Bob Lazar, and you heard the story and you know what's going on. I will assume that much, because since Jeremy Corbell, Bob Lazar and Flying Saucers documentary came out, probably you might be new to this whole situation. But I suggest you check out Joe Rogan's interview with Bob Lazar. But I will go through with you, and there is a reason why we have to mention this whole situation that happened to him. So let's start off with the fact, so please stay with me a little bit longer to understand what the heck is going on here. So he did talk about him being inside this UFO, okay? Few things that come up in that situation, like I talked about before, are him describing some of the things that he's seen. Now I want you to keep a mental note of this particular thing that he said about how the panels look like inside this UFO, okay? You have to keep that in mind for now. So the panels inside a UFO look like nothing that we have on Earth. Obviously the technology is thousands of years ahead of our evolution, so it's understandable you're not going to find any computer looking like interface and or whatnot. Again, there are chairs inside this craft supposedly, which makes it all that much interesting for the reason why, I don't know, do aliens need to sit down because it's a long flight to Earth and their knees start to hurt? Could be, you never know. So another thing is, supposedly where the monitor is looked like an archway of some sort, and he describes it as if it was something from a Star Trek movie. Now that's another human imagination kind of perspective, and makes you wonder. It makes you wonder, not if his story is authentic, but it just makes you wonder. Okay, so again, if you didn't hear his story, he basically described this UFO inside like a one piece that doesn't have any round edges or any kind of straight edges, and everything looks like it's one mold, like everything is fused together. And again, no interface of any kind that resembles a computer or anything that we have today inside flying vehicles. So this is what makes you wonder, and this is why this video is going to exist, and why am I putting it on the record here on YouTube. So please again stay with me to learn something here that might open your eyes a little bit more as far as his story goes, okay? Again, I just have to say that whole thing with Bob Lazar is, to me, his story is like a Rubik cube, okay? You just keep on turning it until you solve one side, and so forth and so forth. And the more you do it, the more sites you will solve. So that's exactly what I'm trying to achieve here with Bob Lazar, because his story is more than fascinating to me, for the fact that that type of technology, it's coming from outer space, which really is our future, but it exists in real time as we speak, but we can actually see it already. So possibly we could actually travel, into our future, which is really now on a different planet, because those extraterrestrials had a head start in evolution. So kind of makes sense. But now this is the whole problem here, and again, why this video is Bob Lazar or Bob Bizarre titled. And he talks about testing this. They were testing this aircraft. I mean, okay, sure, okay, fine. He's saying that the aircraft went up, went to the left or to the right first, whichever way, and then that was it. He saw that much. Now, I thought he was talking about something like he went inside a UFO and there was no dials or anything, but for some reason later on he's talking about how the scientists are able to figure, suddenly they got this UFO license and able to fly this craft. It's a very thin line here. I mean, to be able to understand how it actually works, because it's thousands of years ahead of our evolution. I mean, certainly it's not from behind of our evolution, it's ahead of our evolution. And but these people can actually drive a UFO. Okay, that's cool, but I mean, it's a little bit difficult to understand that anybody would be able to operate this vehicle to begin with, if there's supposedly no controls around this craft. You're going to have some sort of serious password to get this thing going, because obviously there is no keyhole, type of thing. And that's the funny part about what Bob Lazar was talking about. He just doesn't, judge it as you will yourself, but to me it's a borderline kind of thing there. They're a very thin line. But what's more, okay? And again, please don't underestimate Block Tornado. We're going to, I'm giving you facts to think about. I mean, it's logical against illogical here. He was saying that the scientists were communicating with each other through this radio, walkie-talkie, whatnot. And the craft he talks about is capable of distorting time and space, and it has its own gravitational pull, its own gravity orbit around it. But for some reason they were able to talk with using radios to communicate with each other. I mean, it's hard to believe that anything would penetrate that shield. I mean, the signals will have to get, they're just not gonna go through. And I cannot capitalize on that because he said that himself, it wasn't me. But which brings a totally different perspective of things, okay? Why would anybody say that to confuse things even further? Why would he even say that? He's saying that what was going on was very illogical, to be able to communicate through walkie-talkies at the same time. So that's what I'm trying to bring up here. So another question comes up, okay? And Bob Lazar has been labeled as pathological liar before, but just to go on the record here, I'm not dismissing his story in any shape or form, okay? This man is a likable guy, charismatic guy. I love Bob Lazar. He's my cup of tea, and I don't want to dismiss his story just like that. But as you know, eventually somebody's gonna pick at his story, so that's what's going on. That's all I'm saying, because we're hunting for the truth, and I understand why you're here too, right? You probably have different opinions. Everyone has a different angle, perspective of things, and I have my own, and so do you. And I can never see your perspective, and maybe it's very difficult to see my perspective too. But everyone has different experience in life, and they might learn something that I perhaps will never learn, and you're able to see something different, right? And usually that's how it goes, something like that, along those lines. You know what I mean. Again, please stay with me to understand a little bit further about this story. So let's talk about pathological situation. The pathological problem is that how it works, especially if people are intelligent, is going to be difficult to decode anything they say, everything they say, especially in this kind of situations when it comes to this gray area of UFOs. Okay, you can say anything you want. Talk about how Kermit the Frog was operating these UFOs, and we have no way of telling the truth. But well, Kermit the Frog is obvious one, but when it comes to Bob Lazar, now that's a difficult thing to decode. And again, pathological liars, okay, simply, and I don't want you to practice this outside somewhere, okay? Eventually it's gonna come after you. But it's like saying one ridiculous thing, something ridiculous, okay? Whatever you want to be ridiculous about, it's up to you. But pathological liar will cover it up with another lie, okay? Which is, and here it comes, 10 more ridiculous as the previous lie. And in Bob Lazar's story, it's pretty much happening from beginning to an end. One ridiculous thing after another to misguide your focus, okay? While you're concentrating on your first situation and you're confused about the whole spiel, then his second point comes up that will overshadow the first situation, and again, you will jump from one place to another, okay? But he doesn't want you to wait there too long, so he will make another ridiculous thing to cover it up, okay? And that's how pathological lying goes in a way, especially if the person is highly intelligent, okay? And so this misguidance, misdirection of things kind of covers everything up. Basically, you're covering up your tracks, okay? And it seemed to be some sort of pattern I see if I try to probe into his story that kind of shows up many times, and especially with this UFOs supposedly flying, what happens there, why that is a problem. It's simply because what you need to understand is, what is happening with the scientists that are going home after work. I mean, like, what do you tell your family? Like your wife is calling you for dinner, and you say, "So, how was your day?" And they're saying, "Well, oh, that's great, honey. Don't forget to wash your hands and come for dinner afterwards." And that's just the whole thing, It just it sounds very out of ordinary to kind of believe what the heck. I'm not saying but maybe it's normal for some people, but it's not your ordinary thing, at least for the 99% of this planet, to be flying a UFO around. So those are some of the things that come up, inconsistent things that come up in his story. But we must not, in any shape or form, dismiss this kind of stories. And I'm sure you're not, because if you've seen something strange in the sky like me, I'm sure you're able to accept his story a lot more than other people. So, and because people are just getting into the story now because of Joe Rogan interview perhaps, and Jeremy Corbell documentary, Bob Lazar and Flying Saucers, you're probably getting some interest into this story. Of course, who wouldn't, right? So, but again, it's not, we cannot dismiss anything like that. Unfortunately, this logic of things exists in our heads. It's logical that there is life out there in the universe, yada yada. But it's logical thing. It's a brain thing, okay? It's not your belief system that actually accepts that right away until you see it with your own eyes. You know what I mean? So that's the, if you don't, the thing is simple. If you don't convince your brain somehow, and it has to come externally somehow, your brain will not be convinced. Okay, simple as that. But your brain might be thinking about this, and you say, yeah, that's true, could be life out there, but brain will not be convinced unless it comes from outside, some kind of proof. And of course, as you know, Bob Lazar, all we have is the words, and that's it. And that's just a problem with this famous story, that we can wrap our minds around, and we don't understand the fact that this happened 30-40 years ago, and we're still beating around the bush. While whoever found it, it's probably, who knows what they've done to it already. But what I do personally extract from the story, which I like, and makes it all that believable because of these things that he said, like for instance the technology that we cannot replicate, which makes sense. I mean, it's thousands of years of evolution of work there, and it's difficult to even begin to understand how these things work, like he said, like Bob Lazar said, which makes a lot of sense. So that's another kind of those things that makes you wonder if his story is really authentic. And as you know, it's hard to get into this kind of stories. It's hard to digest this kind of UFO happening. I mean, it's again, there's no proof. That's the problem. I mean, logically, somewhat maybe in your brain, your brain might somewhat accept it, but it doesn't mean that your brain will fully accept it if something solid of a proof doesn't come through the eye pupils, okay? And that's exactly what's happening with Bob Lazar's story. He's an intelligent guy. If you watch some of his documentaries, he's definitely a scientist. But, it brings up another story, another problem. It's totally different ball game if you're a hot dog salesman and talking about the UFOs, which logically you shouldn't know nothing about. I'm not saying that you don't, but I'm saying, you get my point. If you're a tennis player, or a soccer player, or whatnot, it's not your forte, or it's not your field, okay? It's most likely somebody with scientific background who is a scientist. And that's the suspicious part about Bob Lazar, because someone like this could possibly cook up a story like this. Again, I talked about he's capable of doing it, and I did talk about he's capable of doing it, and if he was to say anything, he would be digging his own hole, because people were connecting the dots. If you watch one of his documentary, I'll put it in the link below. If you watch that documentary about him, you understand that he knows about how UFOs should work, if anything, and that makes you suspicious, right? It's a logical thing to do. A person of that kind of stature doing UFOs on top of that, which go hand in hand somewhat, you must question things, right? Makes you wonder, what the heck? You have a right to be suspicious, you know what I mean? But if this was a person who's got nothing to do with anything, then, obviously would be that much of a and if he starts talking about this gravity amplifiers and antimatter reactors inside this with the gravitational pull that bend and distort time and have their own gravity, and they're capable of flying the speed of light. If that person didn't have any background in science like me, would be a lot easier to digest the story. I mean, but in his case, it's kind of iffy. Okay, that's all I'm trying to say. I mean, again, everyone has their own opinions, and me killing his story like this, it's if it's authentic, it's not a nice thing to do. But we're just having fun here, and that's it. Again, check out my story about the Atlo Pass. This story has been around for 61 years almost, and through my eyes, I honestly think that I was able to decode the story. It was a fun thing to do, as a matter of fact, because it was pretty much up for grabs, and nobody seemed to be able to figure this out. And it's so much evidence about these orbs being present at that time, and they talk about it. I mean, the story itself talks about it. There's nothing that I insert into the story. I'm getting facts from other things that happen at that scene, like radiation that was found in people's clothes, or at least one of the people's clothes. And I guarantee you that this story is the first case of human mutilation. Okay, it's the first kind of, just like Barney and Betty Hill, their story was one of the first widely publicized stories, UFO stories in America. And I believe that the Atlo Pass story is one of the first publicized world stories about human mutilation. Just people don't know, understand what happened. But one thing, everybody talk about the orbs, and there was Lev Ivanov, okay, L-E-V Ivanov. He was the person on the scene at the time, and he has his own article about this strange phenomena, orbs, that he talk about, and he thinks that they were responsible for it. See, again, this is not coming from me. These are actual facts. And again, at Block Tornado, this is not entertainment. This is like hunting for the truth, as a truth seeker of some sort. And but not even me would able to decode his story, the Atlo Pass story, until I came across a channel that talk about cattle mutilation, okay? And this was a vital piece of evidence, okay? Because the man interviewed in this video was talking about orbs being present. But now get this, the video was about cattle mutilation, and he talks about orbs being present. So now it has to give you some kind of hints here. Could those orbs be responsible in this human mutilation in the Atlo Pass? You tell me, man. Think about it. Radiation found in someone's clothes. So, the theories about Bigfoot and indigenous people in that area had something to do with it should easily be dismissed, because radiation should sort of belong to these orbs instead. And not just that, but I talked about some people having orange skin. I mean, there's just too much here. Somebody was abducted, and as you know, Dubila, I forgot the name. I will leave it in the link below. As a matter of fact, I will leave you the whole map of what happened, and you'll see that she was one of the hikers that was dropped on her face down. Okay, now get this, stay with me a little bit to understand this. Face down, and not just that. Here comes the punchline. Her tongue and her eyeballs were missing. Okay, now if this piece of information doesn't give it to us on a platter, silver platter, then I don't know what. Because as you know, what happens in cattle mutilation, usually the tongue and the ears and the eyes are going missing, and the reproductive systems or whatnot. They're basically just cut out. And I will get into next time to help you understand what really is going on during this cattle mutilation, because there's no blood present, and I will explain to you what exactly it's happening to those cows or to that cattle. But that's what happened to one of the hikers, and as you know, the orbs were present in the area. And again, it's probably one of the first documented human mutilations, okay, the Yatlo Pass. And again, nobody is able to decode this, but I'm telling you, she was dropped face down, and all I want you to do is check out on YouTube how this cattle is lying in what position, okay? Remember what I said about her, face down. So she was probably abducted and then simply dropped off somewhere, and everybody starts freaking out, okay? And as you can see clearly, she's one of the victims that is all the way the furthest away from the group, from the tent, okay? The position where these unfortunate souls die, you have to understand that it all matters here. And if you hear something about how these UFOs abduct cattle and then drop them somewhere further away down the road or whatnot, well, that's exactly what happened to her. She was picked up, supposedly, I think, I'm quite certain, and then dropped off further down, the furthest away from the tent. One of the victims, there was 3 more. Question is, were they also abducted? But she's certainly, more interesting to me because she was missing a tongue and eyeballs, and that's very common when it comes to cattle mutilation. So again, I'm just saying that's what's happening here at Block Tornado, and take it as you will, but that's what I like to hunt for, and that's what I like to decode things with facts, okay? And again, Lev Ivanov talks about this. He's one of the authorities supposedly on the scene, and there was probably more information that we're probably not getting from the authority, and hopefully Russians will one day tell us more, but I think it's classified because they didn't release the story, I believe, 10 days after for some reason, okay? They didn't tell us the whole story, and I think there was some evidence that's probably not present and hidden from the public, okay? Because there was a document written that was supposedly 10 days ago from the time it happened, and something along those lines. Again, I'll try to find that and I'll leave it in the link below, but if I find it, it will be there. If it's not, then but I think I will. So again, I think this the Atlo Pass story is decoded pretty much because of this video. Again, I'll put it in the link below. But if you really want to watch what's going on in details, then I encourage you to check out the Atlo Pass orbs, UFO orbs decoded video that I made, and I will leave that. It should be up here somewhere. It's gonna come up now. But you pretty much heard everything. So all because of this farmer from States. He breaks the story in half. Again, he associated cattle mutilation with orbs, and he's got nothing to do with the Yatlo Pass story. He doesn't obviously perhaps even know about that story. He's just a farmer, it's not his thing to get into. It makes you, like I said before, if you would be somebody who likes UFO and has a background in some sort of, physics or whatnot, you might be into this kind of stuff. But again, this is a farmer, and they're busy with other things. And but he does talk about orbs being present, orange lights in the sky, and I talk about it at blogtornado.com in UFO section. There's a UFO and orb phenomena article I wrote, and basically, he talks about how lights were orange lights, obviously making no sound. Yeah, that's all typical of. I've seen it myself. I know what happened. But the fact that he said they multiply, then that kind of just gave it away right there, because that's exactly what I've seen. And again, if you're interested, read about it at blogtornado.com in UFO section, UFO orb article that I wrote. Just a simple article, but it just brings out those points, and I want to document that. If you've seen such phenomena, you might come across this article of mine, and it's a very common thing, really. It's nothing special, because these orbs are seen around the world lately, and again, we're seeing it nothing more but because of smartphones, the technology in general. You can just pull your phone out and record anything you want on a fly. But we couldn't do this in Stone Age or whatnot, but what people did or whatnot, they're able to draw cave paintings, as you've seen in Prometheus during the briefing hours. They were showing these cave paintings around the world who have some similarity with these orbs in the sky or these dots in the sky. And that's some of the earliest times people were documenting such phenomena, these orbs. And for the life of me, I still don't understand what they are up until now. Nobody has a really solid answer, and I can understand, because it's, unless somebody captured this thing and able to analyze it. But, just judging by looking at it, it's very difficult to say what it is unless you have some solid proof. Again, if you're able to document it, with cameras or whatnot. So, but there's a lot of evidence all around our planet from the past that, pyramids or Stonehenge or Nazca lines, all these things kind of makes you wonder why people were building them. It's clearly shown in Nazca lines that those geoglyphs were created for someone, at least. Okay, why would you draw yourself a picture if that's the case? Like, why would you draw yourself a picture that you can't see? You're too small to see it. That's the big question. I kind of wonder if I want to take the story through Blog Tornado. It was for somebody, maybe like gods, and they could have been orbs, really, that they just couldn't understand, and they worship them, right? As we see them around the world now. So they must have been here for a long time, or they might have seen a UFO, whatnot. But it's clearly for someone that can see it from space. And I don't know why would it be for somebody who, unless these people were like 500 feet tall, to see what really is going on. But the actual geoglyphs have, and the meaning behind the geoglyphs have no purpose if you cannot see it, and they didn't have helicopters or planes to go and see what they were drawing those days. So it must have been for something from the sky. I mean, that's the whole mystery behind this. And again, what really happened during Egypt, during the buildings of pyramids? I mean, something really extraordinary happened, and I talk about this with Bob Lazar and Evolutionary Boost video. You might want to check that out, because it's an injection. It's a injection, like you would. It's an injection. It's something like injection of steroids, just something abnormal happened. And it seems to be very evident in pyramids. And we still don't understand how they were built up until now. It's still a mystery until now. And I personally believe, and I did talk about this, that this orbs got a lot to do with our history, especially US history, because of that very simple symbol on one American dollar bill, the Illuminati symbol. Again, Illuminati means illuminating something like light, and you clearly can see that on a symbol. There is light illuminating on each side of the pyramid. And not just that, but it's hovering in the air, okay? You can see it's detached from a pyramid. But not just that, it's an all-seeing eye, e pluribus unum, above all none. And the all-seeing eye in the sky could mean one thing, that these orbs are present and are watching us. And it ties into David Icke's story a little bit about some reptilian race controlling our population, trying to enslave it. But because of that very symbol on $1 American bill, that there's something watching us all, could be why I can appreciate David Icke's story. And there could be some serious connection going on here, because it's a reality. It's not just talk here. There is a symbol there that just can't be explained. And this Illuminati symbols, I mean, I seen this Illuminati symbol on like a shrine. It's like a Jesus on a cross, and there's candles, and it's Jesus, and on top there is Illuminati symbol. And this symbol is about, the shrine is about maybe 4 or 5 kilometers or 6, something like that, away from where I seen the orbs. And the 3 orbs, if you've seen 3 orbs, it's a very common thing than supposed to seeing 15 or 8 or whatever number. But 3, it's kind of like, usually it's going to be 1. It might be 1, and then it will separate itself into 2 more, so there will be 3. And if you didn't catch it right from the beginning, usually it starts off with 1 somehow, but I could be wrong. But that's what happened in my case. There was 1, and then they're separated, and that's what this farmer is talking about. So this multiplying situation, keep that in mind, likes to happen when these orbs show up in the sky. Okay, this division, dividing themselves into 2, and there's so many stories how they divide, and the presence of the orange light. Okay, so that's very, very common. I mean, you've probably seen something else if the light was green, or if they were blue, which they do talk about blue color, but usually orbs are orange. So actually, as you can see right here, somebody sent me this footage, and now this is some phenomena I cannot explain, like I said, but take it as you will. But to me, it's incredible. I've been trying to hunt after these orbs for so long now. I made a few videos about this, and every time I talk about it, as a truth seeker, you'll start to see, like I said, once you doodle around with the Rubik's Cube and you keep messing around with it, eventually you'll solve the puzzle, right? Solve the cubes, and that's what's happening right now. I'm kind of feel like that there's something, as a matter of fact, inside the pyramid. And that's why I think this Illuminati symbol is hiding something in plain sight. And there is a vital clue. Again, like I said, clues are important here, that connects this theory with reality. And that's what we're trying to hunt for, right? Everybody's trying to hunt for truth here. Anyway, I probably left a lot of things out of this, but I will talk more about it. So next time. So please come around again to see what's going on. I make videos sometimes every day, sometimes 3 days, and so forth. But every time I make one, I'm trying to get closer to the truth, and that's basically what's going on here with Block Tornado. So you will hear some interesting points. Okay, it's not just entertainment, which is there's none, and that is entertainment to me. Getting into reality of things, it's much more fun than sci-fi movies. But these orbs are something from a sci-fi movie and it's turning the reality kind of upside down, if you know what I mean here. So perhaps the saying everything you know is wrong could be true. There's little we know about our past. We're just not around, so we don't know what really happened. But we are very new to this Earth, perhaps to this galaxy itself. So questions pop up like this all the time about our creation and why exactly are we here? Who are we? What's this reality all about? Survival purpose, but what else? So that's what Block Tornado is all about. But thank you if you watch this all the way till here. I probably fell asleep a long time ago, but I appreciate any minute that you spend on this video, and I hope you got something out of this, especially about the Atlo Pass. And I encourage you to subscribe so you can get notified about these situations that come up. Again, it's all about facts. Check out my video about 911, the number Angels and Demons 911 I just released previously. All those are facts, okay? I'm not making it up or whatnot. I mean, read my body language, whatever you want to read there. I know I'm wearing glasses, but see it for yourself. It's really happening. I mean, it's this 911 comes up all the time, repeatedly, for me at least. Just when I was uploading the video, goddamn, I was just uploading the video about this Angels and Demons 911, and guess what? The time was 911. I was reaching for this camera that I'm recording with, and as soon as I do that, it turned to 912, and then I'm trying to do it quickly for the computer, and then again it went away. But for the life of me, I cannot explain what's going on. It's a little bit on a different level. I don't know if this is telepathically being communicated with us from somewhere, from outer space, they say, as far as I read about it, or because we are trying to receive these signals from space, and as you know, SETI program, Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, this program with this huge antenna-like creation, we're trying to look for the signals, and one of those signals was WOW signals, right? Do you remember WOW? And it came from outer space, and we don't know if it came from extraterrestrials or what exactly was this signal about, but it seems like it was some sort of signal that could have been from extraterrestrials. And but the question is, are they communicating with us through radio signals? But how about the option about telepathy? Maybe they're sending signals, as they're telepathic, right? Extraterrestrials, most people think they put people in a trance when they abduct them or whatnot, paying their visitations. They telepathically put them to sleep. So could we be receiving some messages from space through telepathy instead of through radio waves, okay? Which, we never give it a thought, and we always rely on technology all the time, but that might not be the case here. It could be that this message, and you want to check out maybe and you might want to check out Dennis Egglestone video, okay? I talk about it in Zeta Reticuli and telepathic power video, and should be up here somewhere. And I talk about how this man, is able to receive this message from Zeta Reticuli extraterrestrials, and as you know, there is talk about these extraterrestrials, right, being here on Earth in Barney and Betty Hill story, right, and even Bob Lazar's story. So and there is talk about these extraterrestrials being in Barney and Betty Hill story, and later on in Bob Lazar's story. So you wonder, are these two stories connected somehow? Did perhaps Bob Lazar borrow this story that happened in 1961, some information there, and injected there into his story about Zeta Reticuli? So we have to wonder, because again, Dennis Egglestone supposedly received this message from Zeta Reticuli, extraterrestrials somewhere here around our planet, and that's what's mind-boggling, or Mars or something like that. That's what he was saying to me, and I was just blown away by his story. And you might want to check out his channel. So, and in particularly if you're a UFO fan, you might want to listen to his story and try to understand what the hell, how does this man know what's going on. I still don't understand, for the life of me, how people are able to this story is on a totally different level of things. Okay, so do check it out. I will leave it in the link below, and I just want to thank you for watching my video again. And I will again, please don't forget to give it a thumbs up or subscribe here at the bottom right. That would be much appreciated. Remember, while you're subscribing, okay, there are interesting points. Okay, it's not your everyday thing that you sometimes find out on the internet. Okay, it's all about connecting the dots here, and again, I'm able to kind of see those dots, and they're not my dots, it's not my information. I'm just connecting them, just like I did in the Atlo Pass. If it wasn't for this farmer, I wouldn't even made a video. But as soon as I heard that story, I brought his story up in the open, and to make you understand why this story is a bridge between orbs and the Atlo Pass incident. Okay, so anyways, thank you very much again, and I will talk to you then. Cheers. Thank you.